Invasive species have caused widespread damage in the Great Lakes region, both in the water and on land. But there's hope in the fight against one of these threats. Dan Wanchura from the Points North podcast brings us the story.
This is Kathleen Knight, and she's walking through a forest in central Ohio. She's a research ecologist for the United States Forest Service, so she likes to say she gets paid to take walks like this.
I have a moment almost every day in the field where I'm like, trees are awesome and amazing. They do so many amazing things.
In 2006, she walked through a forest in Ohio surrounded by big, beautiful ash trees, tall trunks, lush green canopies, a healthy forest. She collected some data and headed out. Then, 3 years later, in 2009, Kathleen returned to that forest and found a completely different scene.
We were initially struck when we looked around, and that was kind of our moment of shock, saying, wow, they're all dead.
Hundreds and hundreds of dead ash trees, as far as the eye could see, all because of a small invasive bug called the emerald ash borer.
It was some really depressing research early on because we had all these beautiful ash forests, floodplains with huge ash trees, and then we watched all of these trees die. We watched those ecosystems change.
There were once billions of ash trees all over North America. Ash trees filtered groundwater. They gave habitat to all sorts of plants, animals, and insects. Indigenous people depended on ash to make baskets. Ash was used for things like baseball bats and handles for tools.
To see it disappear so quickly and change so quickly, it's heartbreaking. It would have created a gallery here.
But heartbroken or not, Kathleen and her colleagues had a job to do. So they gathered data from the dead ash trees, they measured their trunks, looked for emerald ash borer exit holes, and then they headed back to their cars.
We were pretty quiet on the walk back out. And as we're walking across the bridge, I think it was one of our interns who spotted the tree. Like, hey, is that an ash? And we all stop and look at this tree, and we're like, that's an ash. It's definitely an ash. It's healthy, it's full of green leaves, it looks great. It was really this moment of confusion. How is this tree possibly here? How is this possibly existing after what we've seen all day long here? We knew it was big. We knew it was big to find a surviving tree.
Now, they had to figure out why it survived, because that answer might save an entire species from extinction.
No one knows exactly how the emerald
ash borer, or EAB for short, was first found in North America just outside Detroit, Michigan. It was more than 20 years ago, in 2002. The little beetle arrived on wood packing material in cargo ships or airplanes from China. From there, it spread quickly. The bugs have wings and can fly short distances, but people are the main way they get around.
Stop the spread of emerald ash borer. Don't move firewood.
Now, EAB is found in 36 states and 5 Canadian provinces. Its population hits ash trees in waves. Parts of the Great Lakes region are in a second wave right now.
Have limestone near the surface.
Kathleen has seen the effects of that here in central Ohio.
So this is one of our larger ones. It died too, and you can actually see the canopy of the dead tree. That's a very recently killed ash that died during the second wave. And I'm going to see if I can find some galleries here for you under the bark, if I can peel back.
The real damage done by the emerald ash borer is done by its larvae. They bore just under the bark and make these squiggly-looking tunnels.
So as the emerald ash borers create these tunnels, if you get enough emerald ash borers, they basically cut off that circulatory system and girdle the tree, and it can't get water and nutrients transported up to the canopy. And that kills the tree fairly quickly.
As EAB devastated ash trees in North America, researchers scrambled to find a solution. Early on, they tried cutting down large swaths of trees to create a sort of fire break to stop the spread. Then they tried insecticides. Those can work to save a small number of trees or maybe one in your yard, but not a whole forest. Later, the focus shifted to tiny wasps from Asia, which kill emerald ash borer eggs and larvae. They help, but don't completely get rid of EAB. Overall, the outlook for ash trees in North America was still really dire. Which brings us back to 2009, when Kathleen found that lone surviving ash tree. She wants to know, is this tree a possible solution? So in 2010, she put a team together and they went out searching for more surviving trees and found them. One person Kathleen wanted to tell was Jennifer Cook, a geneticist with the U.S. Forest Service. But she was pretty skeptical.
Because of the data that was being reported, we were buying into nothing is going to survive, there's no resistance, because so many other scientists were saying that until we saw Kathleen's field data and the pictures that she took of the healthy trees that she found.
So Jennifer and her team come up with a hypothesis, and that is some ash trees in North America have a genetic resistance to the emerald ash borer. Basically, the ability to fight off EAB. But Jennifer says that's just the hypothesis. They need more data. They come up with a term for these trees that's cautious but hopeful. Lingering ash.
It's kind of like, that last person that leaves the party. They just linger. And you're just like, well, what are you doing here still?
When Kathleen Knight would find a lingering ash, she'd take branches from it and bring them to Jennifer Cook's lab. Jennifer would clone them and run a bunch of tests looking for genetic resistance. And she found the trees not only had resistance, they actually killed EAB larvae. And that was surprising.
The mantra at the time was no coevolution, no resistance, meaning that since this insect was from a whole nother continent and our trees didn't grow up exposed to them, that they didn't evolve any sort of mechanisms to defend themselves.
Scientists didn't know what genetic trait made these ash trees resistant. What they needed to find out was, did the ash trees pass the resistance down to their offspring?
Because that is the key piece of information you have to know that breeding is actually going to work.
So Jennifer and her team cloned a bunch of different lingering ash and crossbred them. The seedlings weren't just resistant to EAB, they were even more resistant than their parents.
Now we're really starting to get excited. I shouldn't say starting to get excited, but now we're convinced.
And that means their hypothesis is right. Resistance to the emerald ash borer is genetic in some ash trees in North America. Then comes the big task, actually saving the trees. Jennifer needs to create an entire orchard of resistant ash to prove her lab results out in the field. Her team will harvest the seeds from the most resistant trees and grow them into seedlings. Eventually, those seedlings will be planted in forests across the region. Jennifer says that could happen in the next decade. This entire process can be replicated, helping spread resistant ash all across the continent.
We're working with trees from Ohio and Michigan, so I can't take those trees and the resistant seed they produce and plant them all the way down to Mississippi. They won't be adapted to grow there. So we have to do what we're doing over and over to make seed orchards for each separate region.
An insect that's native to China.
Back in a forest in central Ohio, Kathleen Knight continues to look for lingering ash today.
More than half of the canopy looks great. And then there's another tree right here to our left that also has a good healthy canopy. So these are two that I'm hoping will make it through the second wave and continue to survive.
Kathleen is quick to point out, in order to save the species across North America, they can't search for lingering ash alone.
We need other people out there who are in the forest, keeping an eye open, looking for large, surviving, healthy ash trees, because there's not enough of us to survey every forest, and there are a lot of important trees out there that could be missed if people aren't watching for them.
Despite it sometimes feeling like an uphill battle, Kathleen is optimistic about the future of ash trees.
I mean, that's what gets me out of bed every day, is that the work is really important. We're literally working to save multiple species of trees.
And not just the ash tree, other species too. Because more catastrophic pests are going to come along. And now scientists will know. Look for genetic resistance. And those trees could also be saved.
Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out our YouTube channel for even more Great Lakes Now. See you out on the lakes.